Welcome to the latest episode of Station to Station here on Organized Chaos Sports. Next 30 minutes will take you through the four-game series versus the Kansas City Royals. Thanks, and we hope you enjoy.
Station to Station, Episode 2, back with Dustin after a four-game series with the Royals. Um, Dustin, you predicted a 3-1 series win in this, and that's actually what came to fruition.
1-0 on my prediction so far. Let's keep it going.
All right, so what we'll do is we'll just do a very quick recap of the previous series, which was obviously the season opening series against the Cardinals. So coming into the Royals series, Jays had a 1-2 record. They first game 10-9 win, a 4-1 loss, and then a 9-4 loss. So not really the greatest feeling going into the Royals series, but I think the opponent that the Royals were going to pose, I think, was probably a perfect opponent for the Jays, given where they're at in the season. So let's talk about Game 1. We have a pitching matchup of Jose Barrios and Brady Singer. So lots of questions coming in from the spring about Jose Barrios, and I'm going to go into a little bit more detail in a moment. But why don't you just touch on Jose Barrios' performance in this game?
You're right. A lot of questions coming into this game, and still a lot of questions coming out of this game. I don't think he showed a whole lot to calm anyone's nerves on what we were thinking coming out of spring, and especially after last year. Honestly, I think his real problem was just missing over the plate. So he's trying to find the edges, trying to get his fastball to the outside, to the inside, and he's missing his spots. And unfortunately, he's just missing it right down the middle, and they're taking him hard and far.
So his pitching line was 5.2 innings pitched, 9 hits, 8 earned runs, 2 walks, and 7 strikeouts. That pitching line is quite all over the place. Lots of runs given up, couple of walks, lots of strikeouts, and he still went. He still got pitched into the fifth, right? And I think that was probably more related to just wanting to save the bullpen a bit, because the bullpen has been used a lot in these first couple series. But in terms of lineup changes in this game, not really a lot of changes other than Belt starts at first. Vladdy makes his first appearance in the DH slot. Barrios unfortunately has a rough first inning. There's a leadoff double, which runner comes home on a Bobby Witt Jr. single. There's another single, more singles. So it seems like Barrios gets into these basically positions where he just seems to kind of get into a spot and he just gets hit pretty hard. Inning number 1 ends 3-0 after a Hunter Dozier fielder's choice RBI. So we go into the top of the second. There's a Kirk walk, a Matt Chapman double over the right fielder's head, which sends Kirk first to third. Ideally, you probably want your runner to score on that, but Kirk is not a very swift runner, so he ends up on third. And Biggio strikes out to end the inning, leaving runners on second and third. So a bit frustrating there. Moving to the fourth, and before the fourth, Barrios actually has a couple decent innings. So it's you're kind of hoping he's settled down a bit, but we get a bit of a repeat of the first inning. We get a Hunter Dozier single, Jackie Bradley Jr. single, and then a Lopez triple to right center, and that leaves the game 5-0. But the Royals aren't done. There's an RBI double following that to make it 6-0, and then an RBI single by Bobby Witt Jr. to make it 7-0. Um, the Jays eventually claw one back in the top of the fifth. Um, the Royals kind of add a couple more runs in the bottom of the sixth, and then the Jays basically finish out the game adding 4 more runs and lose 9-5. So I would say overall pretty disappointing game. Being that it was the opener against Kansas City, and given them as being an opponent, and being able to you know being behind kind of on the back foot to start the series.
Yeah, I think, like you said, there's a couple little bright spots for Berrios. There's, a couple innings where he put up some zeros. As you said, he got 7 strikeouts. So a little bit of hope there, but, on the whole, you're right. It was a disappointing win, or loss rather, and, especially after the 2 losses against the Cards, we're down 3 losses to 1 in the first 4 games. I think there were a couple of Jays fans uh, ready to give up on the season already.
I'm sure there were plenty of Jays fans on Twitter
Sure.
wishing to do that. We'll probably talk about Berrios in a bit more depth on our weekly review, but I think it's probably important to remind people that Jose Berrios actually still he was the second. He was second in wins last year on the Jays, so he had 12 wins. So he can have good appearances. He just seemed when he had a bad performance last year, it was really bad. So we're just gonna have to see how this plays out. Moving on to game two. So we have on the mound Yusei Kikuchi, lefty, starting against Chris Bubik. So I think there was a lot of anticipation in this game, and probably mostly on what kind of appearance Kikuchi was going to have for us.
Yeah, that's right. I think, he had a lot of promising starts. He looked really strong in the spring. But, spring numbers are always kind of, questionable in terms of the opposition that you're facing, and, is it real? Is it not? What does spring really mean? So a lot of Blue Jays fans really uh, waiting with bated breath to see if Kikuchi can deliver when it means something, and he certainly did that.
He certainly did. Kikuchi's pitching lines, we have 5 innings pitched, 1 earned run, 4 hits, 2 strikeouts, and 1 walk. He looked quite sharp in this game.
Yeah, I think he was locating his pitches. We see, what he can be in this game, just throwing strikes, um, getting swings and misses, and he gave up 1 home run, but he'll do that from time to time. I think he impressed quite a bit.
Moving on to just the game itself, we had relatively low scoring game in comparison to game number one. But in the bottom of the second, we have Dalton Varsho showing off his arm in left field.
Yeah, Dalton Varsho just really throughout this whole series kind of showed um, why the Blue Jays picked him up. And his outfield uh, defense was on display with this throw, gunned down someone trying to run on him, and just there was just no chance. Perfect
Yeah,
throw.
it's a perfect
Yeah,
throw.
yeah. So he also had a bunt single this game. Um, just all around like a ball player, just doing the little things right.
He definitely seemed to. Now, uh, top of the third, we have a Bo Bichette single. Bo advances, goes first to third on a Vladdy single, and then Matt Chapman drives Bichette in with a single of his own. Top four, we have a Witt Merrifield double. I bet that felt pretty good playing against his old team.
Mhm.
Jansen then flies out, so Witt advances to third, and then we have I don't know if it was a wild pitch or a pass ball. I didn't see how it was actually scored, but they did mention in the broadcast it was a wild pitch, and Witt strolls home to make it the game 2-1. This, of course, is following the home run that you mentioned that Kikuchi gives up, and that was Ranmil Reyes. Um, uh, but I think also in terms of the sharpness that Kikuchi showed, he also worked out of a couple jams, which I
Mhm.
think is I think that's a good sign as well. Like that's a trait that I think the pitchers more towards the front of the rotation seem to be able to handle a bit more. But he did work out of a bit of a jam in the bottom of the fifth where he had runners on first and second.
Yeah, I think that's something that we saw him. That's a position that we saw him kind of collapse in the past, and so it's really promising to see that he's can face some adversity in game, settle himself down, and get right back to where he needs to be and put guys away.
So top six, Dalton Varsho hits his first home run for the Jays. The game is now 3-1. And then, as you had touched on previously, after a Matt Chapman double, Dalton Varsho bunts for a single, moving Chapman to third. And then there's a weird Danny Jansen fielder's choice RBI. It was like a kind of it was a bloop behind first base, and I guess
Hmm.
the runner moving to second didn't couldn't go because he may have been caught, and then he just got it was basically just a force out at second. So following that fielder's choice is now 4-1. Jordan Romano comes on and gets his second save of the season.
Yeah, great game. Really brought those Twitter Blue Jays fans off the ledge. With a with a win from Kikuchi, and a nice, really solid save from Jordan. Uh, just the kind of win that we want to see, and a sight for sore eyes.
Now moving into game three, so we have some few lineup changes. Varsho moves to center field. Whit Merrifield on left. Uh, Kirk comes in to catch because Alec Manoah is starting, and Kevin Biggio at second base. I feel like we've seen a lot of Kevin so far this year, a lot more than I thought we would.
Uh, yeah, I think I'm surprised too. I think he's had a great spring. I think we mentioned the other day, and he's being rewarded. And like I said, I think that depth at the bench is proving itself to be valuable. Schneider's able to give guys rest, move people around, and we're seeing these sort of a large variety of lineup constructions like we're talking about.
So pitching matchup, we have Zach Greinke, veteran pitcher, versus Alec Manoah. Um, we will touch on Alec Manoah's pitching line in a moment. Um, but this was a relatively low scoring game. We have a Manoa pitches out of a jam in the bottom of the fifth. And top six, we have a Vladdy single, Varsho single, another Matt Chapman fielder's choice RBI, a Kirk single, and the bottom of the sixth finishes in classic fashion with a Brandon Belt strikeout. Top eight, we have a Vladdy opposite field home run on a 0-1 count. We have a Varsho double and then a Matt Chapman RBI single. Seems to be a common theme so far to start this year. Matt Chapman is quite hot and was actually, I believe he was actually moved up to the cleanup spot in this game as well.
Yeah, Chapman's on fire right now. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get some consideration for, those rather meaningless but still pretty cool Player of the Week awards that they give out. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him there this week. Loving to see him, start the season in a good spot, especially after I think he had kind of, at least for himself, a disappointing year last year.
So Jordan Rano comes on and gets the save, but Alek Manoah's pitching line, and I thought, I don't know, I thought this pitching line was a little bit deceiving in that he had 7 innings pitched, 1 hit, 0 earned runs, 4 walks, and 5 Ks.
Well, I mean, he took a no-hitter into the fifth, I believe, was the first hit that the Royals hit. I guess, what do you mean by deceiving?
Well, there were a lot of very hard hit balls early on in that game. So while they didn't fall in for hits, I didn't think he was quite as sharp as peak Manoah. Essentially,
I
seemed
see.
like it seemed like the Kauffman Stadium was basically was showing its strengths in terms of keeping the ball in the ballpark, and our outfielders basically running down balls in the outfield.
Yeah, I think that honestly that's probably true for both sides. A couple long fly balls in this game. I follow a Twitter account I think called Home Run Comparison or something along that line. And basically what it does is when a ball is kind of either a home run or caught, on the warning track type thing, what it'll do is it'll tell you that this home run would have been a home run, or this home run would have been a home run in 9 out of 30 parks. This, long fly ball would have been a home run in 4 out of 30 parks. This game had, I think, 3 or 4 of those uh, for both sides of the game here. This game, so definitely Kaufman showing what it does, which is contain those home runs.
All right, moving on to Game 4 and the final game of the series. Just going through basically kind of blow by blow what happened. So the Jays get on top of the Royals quickly. We have a Matt Chapman RBI double, which cashes in Guerrero and Varsho, make the game 2-0. In the top second, we have Bo singling to right field. Kiermaier scores. Uh, top four, we have a Biggio solo home run. Definitely making use of his time in the lineup. And then in the top fifth, we have a Vladimir Guerrero solo home run to make it 5-0. Uh, Bottom of the eighth, Kansas City basically scores all their runs, and up to this point, uh, uh, prior to a solo home run off the foul pole, the Jays had shut out the Royals in 23 consecutive innings up to this point.
Hmm.
So they cash in 3 runs off a solo home run, and then a two, basically a double that cashes in 2 RBIs. And I think Schneider had to go to the bullpen a little bit more and use a few more pitches than he wanted to, but Adam Simber eventually comes in after I guess Jordan Romano had pitched the previous 2 days, and Simber gets his 7th career save.
Yeah, a little mini implosion there from the bullpen. Um, Trevor Richards not able to get a guy out. Tim Meza not able to get a lefty out. Although I don't want to, knock Tim Meza too hard. I think his last appearance, he got all 4 batters that he faced and struck them out. So he's hot and cold, but luckily Jimmy Garcia was able to come in, stop the bleeding, and then, as you said, Simber able to close it out with Romero on the bench for today's game.
And before I forget, the Kevin Gausman started this game, 6 innings pitch, 4 hits, 0 earned runs, 2 walks, and 7 strikeouts. So pretty consistent from Gosman. We're getting quite consistent performances from him, um, and I think that's looking good going forward in terms of the season.
Yeah, a little bit of a concern I think I saw on the broadcast, and then some people were talking about it on Twitter. His velocity was a little bit down, but I mean, his splitter was effective. He was still getting guys to swing and miss on that pitch, and hey, if that's gonna work, that's gonna work. So hopefully the velocity, being down doesn't mean some sort of injury or something. That's, I think, what some people are worried about, but we'll keep an eye on it.
So the Jays' current record, 4-3. They are currently third in the AL East. And of note, Tampa Bay is currently in first, and they are 6-0. So I don't imagine they're going to go 162-0. So they'll probably come back to the pack. But that will be looks like a team that'll be one to watch as the season progresses. Uh, do you have a player of the series, Dustin?
I do. I'm tempted to give it to Varsho again. He's slowly becoming a man crush for me, but I'm going to give it to Kevin Kiermaier today. I think he had 4 hits on the series total, but his defense and outfield has been a breath of fresh air for a Blue Jays fan like me. And today he had a ground ball into the outfield and was able to get to second base. Just a hustling play. Biggio hit a single to right, and then he was able to score. And basically, I think that was the 3rd run of the game. He manufactured that run, and just the eye test for him, on the whole for the series, was just impressive to me.
Well, I echo your sentiments about Varsho. I know I've gushed over him in previous episodes, but he definitely seems to have this interesting combination of ability, work ethic, just kind of this baseball brain. He can hit, he can hit home runs. He can bunt for singles. He's a good base runner. He just seems to really be he seems to be like decent at everything, and it's pretty awesome to watch that. And I think as you had mentioned previously, I think Jays fans are really going to take a liking to him. Toronto, as white collar as it is of a city, it does love its blue collar players, and I think
Mhm.
Varsho is definition of that. My player of the series is Vladimir Guerrero. He had 4 runs. He had 8 hits, 3 RBIs, a couple walks, and 2 home runs. And I think Vladdy's really building into this season. So um, he hadn't had any home runs early on, but he was consistently getting hits. And what we've seen the last couple games is the power has come back into his bat, and I think we have a great season in the offing coming from him. And that's not even talking or touching on Bo Bichette, who has had another good series as well. But I think both of those two seem to be quite on their game to start the year, and I think that's going to bode well um, for the season going forward. Now, I did want to touch on another player who has uh, been outstanding to start the season, Matt Chapman. So he leads the majors in doubles with 6, leads the majors in hits with 13, and he is third in average with a 481 average. So don't think he's going to keep that up, but he is in a contract year. He is um, really playing um, for that fat contract that I'm sure his agent Scott Boras wants. Well, moving forward, we have um, the Anaheim Angels coming up. West three games on the West Coast
Mhm.
before the Jays come back for their home opener. Uh, just touching on the Angels a little bit. Uh, they are 4-2 and tied for first in the AL West, and they have some big players. uh, big time players. And although I feel like the Angels are one of those teams that have some superstars that for whatever reason do not seem to be doesn't seem to translate into success for the team though.
Yeah, there was the joke I heard basically, a recap of Angels game is something like, Shohei Ohtani uh, strikes out 7, gets a home run. Mike Trout gets 2 home runs, and the Angels lose, 6-4. So,
That's
you know,
funny.
yeah, it's tough to be an Angels fan. I think, you got some great players, Shohei and Trout. They signed Rendon this year, although I think he's been suspended here, so we won't see him um, unless he's appealing, but I don't think he is. So yeah, they got a great lineup, um, but they just can't seem to turn it into wins. Hopefully for their team, they can do that this year.
Well, it definitely does seem to be a problem when you have players of such a high stature to also be able to have and invest in other players, like other supporting players, essentially. And we're talking about not 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 even two of like the best players right now. We're talking about two probably like generational players. Um, Mike Trout is a 10-time All Star, 3-time AL MVP, and on top of that, he has been runner up for the AL MVP 4 times. So, he's really been in the conversation for the AL MVP really 7 times. Um, and Otani, really uh, he speaks for himself in terms of what he brings to the table, like the two-way talent that he is. Also, I believe he's a free agent this coming off season, so that should be
Mhm.
interesting. But yeah, I think it's a bit of a strange thing going on in Anaheim, where you have fans being able to watch two incredible players, but the team just not really be a complete team top to bottom.
Yeah, and luckily for us, we won't be seeing Shohei on the mound in these 3 games.
We will not.
Uh,
No.
I was looking ahead. It looks like we're going to see Sandoval, Anderson, and Detmeyers. All three are lefties, which I was thinking, do you think that means that we might see um, Schneider keep Belt on the bench for these games? Maybe one, maybe two of them at least, and DH one of Kirk or Jansen, whoever's not catching, to get a righty in there instead.
I definitely think that he's going to go with a righty heavy lineup. I would think that Kirk will probably be the um, the DH when he's not catching. So we have so Gosman started today. So we have I guess Barrios tomorrow,
Mhm.
Kikuchi Saturday, and then we it goes back
No,
around. Oh
we're
wait.
gonna have Bassett tomorrow,
Oh yes, yes.
Barrios, and then uh, Kikuchi.
We're pitch calm Bassett's tomorrow. I he's tomorrow. So basically in that particular scenario, Manoa's not going to be pitching. So I could definitely see Kirk being a DH a little more often, and Belt being kept on the bench for maybe an appearance later in the game. Maybe if a lefty from the pen um,
Mhm.
is brought out by the Angels, I can see that possibly. But this seems like this series might play well for the Jays. What are you predicting, Dustin?
Win loss, you're asking?
Yes.
Um, hmm. This is going to be a tough one to take too. You're away. It's been a long road trip. Uh, my heart says we win two, but my gut says we're going to win one. We're not going to win. We're not going to win this series. But I'm hopeful. Maybe the bats can bail us out here.
Well, I'm gonna be optimistic and say we're gonna win this series. Um, and I think Bassett sorts himself out, and Kikuchi on Sunday, and I think we win this series coming home for the home opener next week.
Your mouth to God's ears, my friend.
All right. Well, we will be back for our weekly Jays review chat, but this has been Station to Station. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to Station here on Organized Chaos Sports. We'll be back on Monday to wrap the 3-game series against the Anaheim Angels. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. Until next time.